Hey guys, Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you the final review of Fire Force Season 2. And right out of the gate, I want to give my overall thoughts on the season. And honestly, if you haven't been following my train of thought up to this point, I think Season 2 already is a major step up from not just in art and animation, but also just in general story. Because putting aside the technical issues Season 1 very much had. It still laid the I've always kind of seen like season one and season two as serving two very different purposes. Season one very much laid the foundation of the world and its dynamics, but with season two, we not only got to we pretty much not only got to dive deeper into those dynamics, but the history of this world as well, and just in some ways just the harsh reality of its history and that what everyone's been fighting for on the surface has 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 kind of in some ways been a meaningless struggle, or just isn't exactly what they should have been fighting for from begin with. And now it's about now it's about finding a way in order to change history from what it's in order to change history from what it was before, and make sure it doesn't happen again. And well, and I just really loved, and that's the one thing I loved about this dynamic of season two, is just learning the history of this world and learning to find ways in order to fight against that. Uh, so in that sense, season two of Fire Force does what I think many long-running shows, both live action and anime, have in one way or another fallen into the trap of, and maybe just fallen a little short of, which is that it pushed the narrative forward. And that's exactly what season two did. Whether it was with the characters or story, at this point, we're in a vastly different place now than at the end of season one. Now, if I were to add anything to the art and animation bump of this season, one thing I noticed more than anything else is that David Production obviously wasn't pretty much as held back this time as they were with season one. But even more so, there were moments where they made use of the extra background space left by Okubo in the manga, and used those moments to get more, I guess for lack of a better term, cinematic with the anime. For instance, I had said this before in a previous episode a while back, but the best example for this for me was the Holy Soul Temple arc, and that scene in the church between, I guess, the bishop and the priest talking. Like in the manga, it was an empty white background, but in the anime, they crafted a whole brick wall and background with basically stained glass windows, and little touches like that, I feel added much more atmosphere to scenes. And even beyond that, I just feel the whole visual style alone with the series imagery in this season, it vastly improved from pretty much season one. So yeah, that in itself was already a major step up. Now the episode itself also took time to. Now getting to the actual episode itself, the one thing that definitely stood out is that the episode took time in order to draw attention back to Conroe and Captain Huang, examining him, which obviously there wasn't much said there, but with the reveal of Captain Hagyu's death in the very next scene, and the fact that he had dual linked with Shinra in his final moments, I guess, more or less shows that even though those who possess a stigma are defective results of failed dual links, the fact that they're being hunted at all shows that they know something that the White-Clad doesn't want the Fire Force to know, even if they're unaware of it themselves. And more than likely, what they know is probably the missing key or piece of info necessary in order to stopping the next cataclysm. So right now, people like Conroe and Burns are the ones in the spotlight right now, because they potentially do hold the key in order to stop what the White-Clad are planning. And on that note, what a way to end this season, by having everyone start making moves and forming plans in order to prepare for the coming day of the White-Clads when the White-Clad makes their move in order to start the the next cataclysm. Like Haku's death, it was in essence the first real shot fired, and now everyone's coming together in order to face down the threat of a real threat of extinction, which again is just yeah, not gonna lie, it feels like the Promise Day moment from FMA Brotherhood, or just the calm before the storm, and it was only made possible because because of everything that this series has been building up to now, all the alliances and relationships that have been formed, but with Company 8, it's all been building to this, and it makes the ending to this season feel all the more epic in skill going into season 3, which. Also, on that note, whosever decision it was to end this episode with the first opening made the pitch perfect decision, because that was just an epic way to end it. Um, Now, having said that, when it came to the actual like ending of the episode, like the actual end credits, it's interesting for me because on one hand, I do hope that I hope Fire Force does in fact get a season 3. But at the same time, I'm hoping that the end credits we saw of them like flashing back to every single moment of the series thus far, it wasn't one of those curtain call moments where we're not gonna get a season 3, and they're only showing us in order to give us a farewell. I'm hoping we are, like I said, I hope we are getting a season 3, but the end credits does give off the vibe that we might not. Like I said, I hope we are, and I think we are, but it does give it that small vibe we might not be getting it, but who knows. Um, with that said, the idea of Shinra and Arthur's training being to break their physical limiters and unlock their hysterical strength, I do like. I do like how it also provides a little bit of insight into Obi and answers the question we never really thought about until now, which is how Obi has survived with how this long with no powers. And I'm sure for some what we learn in this may ruin his character, but it really doesn't, because the truth is, with so many variations of the Infernals and so many powerful Infernals and powerful demons in general up to being introduced up to this point, you do tend to question how someone like Obi does survive, because a good strategy and a normal amount of strength only get you so far in a situation like that. So it would make sense that Obi would have to have pushed past his limitations in order to be able to be any kind of match for larger and more powerful Infernals. Um, and in general, it's kind of a good way in order to address how normal humans it's a good way to address how pretty much normal humans overcome their own weakness in order to fight these monsters. So yeah, it's a good kind of way of addressing that. So in that sense, it's also just kind of building. It's building on his character in some ways, and now with basically Arthur and Shinra having unlocked this power though and broken their limiters themselves, you can only imagine how strong someone with powers but without those limiters will be. Like I think we've already kind of got an idea with how powerful Benimaru is with those limiters unrestrained, but yeah, only imagine how strong Shinra and Arthur are gonna be now. Also, for as extreme as Benimaru was with his hand-to-hand combat training, and for as much as we probably found ourselves siding with Tamaki in the heat of the moment, I like how this episode emphasized that being pushed to the brink of death was the only way for Shinra to unlock his power of hysterical strength, because it's basically a very simple concept, but it actually taps into this single idea that with your body, when it comes to your body, it really only taps into a certain amount of strength at a time. But if you were to break those limiters, then you do manage to kind of tap into a certain amount of hidden strength when that limit is broken. It's in a lot of ways. The whole thing in a lot of ways is reminiscent to something like adrenaline rush or something like that. Like that's the best thing I could use to describe it. It's like an adrenaline rush in a lot of ways. And so yeah, in that sense, it's a nice way of doing it. And yeah, no, and okay, one last thing to talk about. Again, it has to do with the ending, which is how they go about, which is that it basically gives us a lot of future events, and when the episode focuses on the moon, I'm going to be honest. You guys weren't imagining that. Yes, that happened, and I'm not going to say anything other than say it is a very unique way. It was a very unique way in which the French author of the series had incorporated a very minor detail from his previous series into this one. Let's put it that way. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll, and I'll hopefully see you guys in Season 3. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.